Hey, AfterBuzzers, we're back for another edition of LA's Finest. McKenna finally gives Patrick a little bit more information. Sid finally tells Warren about the baby. And it looks like we have a dirty cop on our hands, you guys. We're talking all LA's Finest right here on AfterBuzz TV.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Welcome back, AfterBuzzers, for another episode, another 2 episodes of LA's Finest, episode 8 and episode 9. I'm your host, Ashley Allen. Unfortunately, Portia is not here with us today. She is a little bit under the weather, sending you some love and wishes. But we do have a special guest today in studio. Everyone say hello to Miss Jai Tiggett. How are you?
Hey, hi. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm
happy to be
doing
here.
Well. And for those of you who do not know this beautiful face, she is the writer of episode 5 on LA's Finest.
Thank you so much.
Yes. All right. So we are going to break down everything that's going to happen. We're going to talk about episode 8, episode 9. We're going to get to know Jay a little bit better. We're going to get into our top comments that you guys have left us from last episode. And then we're going to get into some of our favorite top 3 moments of this season. So far, we're going to do our favorite top 3 moments of Gabriele Union this season. And then we're going to get into some predictions on what we think is going to happen for next week. So first, I want to jump right in. And what were your overall thoughts of episode 8, Dead Men Tell No Tale?
Episode 8, I really like this episode. I think, as you mentioned, some more things are revealed. One of the things that I love about LA's Finest is that it doesn't sort of spoon feed you everything. It's a little more shades of gray. So, one moment you might get one aspect of a relationship, and then the next moment you might see that it takes a complete twist in the opposite direction. And it's a little bit like life like that. When it comes to kind of revealing things to a partner or a spouse, it's not always all cards on the table immediately. So as we go, you kind of have to buy into the journey and just be along for the ride. Certain things will be revealed layer by layer, and I think it's more exciting that way.
I do too. I mean, that's what keeps you coming back for more every episode, because if you got everything right then and there, it's like, well, what else, Yeah. All right, so first, I think we should talk about Miss McKenna and Patrick. This episode, we see Patrick finally confront McKenna, asking her questions. Who is Dante? What is your relationship? Now he has some receipts. He has some information to really confront her and see if she's really going to tell him the truth. At first, she doesn't, of course, because that's McKenna. She never tells the truth first, right off the bat. Again, he's asking her, who is this guy? I know that there's more, and I'm hoping that you're going to tell me the truth, even though I know that there's more to the story. Were you shocked? Well, of course, I mean, you're one of the writers, but were you shocked that she didn't tell him the truth?
Not quite. I think it's really interesting to see a detective and, interim DA in a relationship together, because you get to see how they bring their careers into their personal lives, even inadvertently. And to this point, we really see Patrick. He's sort of forging ahead in his career and that sort of thing, not that concerned about his wife. He knows that she has his back, and this is the first time that he really has had his doubts. But, he's not just any man who has his doubts. He is the interim DA, so he's going to come with facts. He's really done his homework, and he's able to kind of confront her with all of this. So I thought that interplay, was really interesting and something that we wanted to bring out. And then, of course, I mean, McKenna's a cop. She's done interrogations. You know what I mean? She's dealt with criminals. She's dealt with all sorts of situations. So she's not going to just give you everything, and she's going to protect the things that are most important to her, which is her family, her husband, her stepdaughter. And so that's really what we see, and I think it's really exciting. As an audience member, we know some of the secrets already that she's been hiding. We know a lot more than Patrick does, and so I think it's really cool to kind of see, what's gonna, the stakes are pretty high. You know what I mean? Depending on what she reveals to him and how she reveals it, she could lose everything. We don't know. And so it's kind of an edge of your seat moment, but also getting to see a little bit from them that we haven't seen before.
Exactly. And of course, he doesn't know that she's trying to protect him, but it's very frustrating to kind of know. Yeah. But then, we understand where both of them are coming from.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of that feminine energy, right? Because he gets to come in, and of course he has to, protect the relationship and stand firm as a husband and that sort of thing. But she knows what she's protecting him from. But she kind of has to play that role of protecting him, but not letting him know that she's protecting him.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was really interesting as well.
Yeah, I love it. I love it because it's very realistic. It's very relatable.
Yeah.
Which is one thing that this show is definitely hits a lot of nails on the head, where it's really things that we can relate to. I also think that Patrick is a little bit in over his head when it comes to Carlene. Clearly, he doesn't know the type of woman that he's dealing with. I think within these 2 episodes, he's kind of a little bit seeing that, but he truly just does not know who she is.
Yeah, I think, and that's another interesting thing about the show is that we're living in the world of bad boys. This is a bad boys spinoff, right? And so there are lots of bad guys, lots of shady figures that you may not necessarily know. Whether or not they're bad or how bad they are. And so it's sort of every interaction, every introduction to one of these folks, you kind of don't know how far it's going to go and how much things are going to unravel. So yeah, Patrick is he's entering into the lion's den.
Yes.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting as the season goes on to sort of see where he ends up.
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing about Patrick and Carlene's relationship is that I think a little bit of him is on this power trip, along with him trying to search for answers, and his emotions are taking over his thinking and being able to be logic in this situation. So pretty much what's happening in episode 8 with Patrick and Carlene, he invites her to his office. He's like, I need to know who this Dante guy is. I need more information. Who is he? How does he know my wife? What is she protecting? Why is she protecting him? And, Carlene, as we've seen, she's always there. She has the answers, but at what cost?
Right.
And, Patrick is going to learn the hard way.
Yeah. Everything has a price. And, Patrick is a smart guy. Yeah. We've seen him, in this episode, we see him kind of flex that muscle a little bit of that, he's a person who not only can go and do his own research, but he has people at his beck and call to bring him the information as well. So he does have some resources at his disposal to sort of fight this battle. But on the other hand, he's sort of, in the middle of the lion's den with very formidable bad guys. Yeah. So it's really interesting, and you never know what direction it's going to kind of go in.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes when you ask for something, you may not like the results of what you're asking
absolutely.
For. Which is something that we definitely saw.
Yeah.
And then just to move on to McKenna and Dante. McKenna, again, she's putting her neck out on the line for Dante. Yeah. She goes, visits him in jail, trying to come up with a situation, how to, solve this. And Dante's like, I'm not trying to hear none of this. I need to get bailed out, and you and your husband are the one that's going to have to do it for me. And she's like, I can't do that. I can't ask him to do this for you. And he pretty much says, well, I made a promise to my son that I was going to be in his life. He's been trying to be Team McKenna, but clearly that hasn't worked out for him, which is why he's in jail right now.
Yeah, he's looking out for number one right now, which is, it's an interesting moment to see Dante kind of take that turn. Initially he sort of came to her for help, and he pushed her and pulled her, and can you do this for me, and can you help me? And I think, McKenna has reached, she's straddled the line as far as she possibly can. Yeah. And so, at some point she has to say, I can't do this, or this is as far as it goes. Of course, I think we've sort of seen McKenna as a loyal character, so she's going to hold that loyalty as far as she sort of can. Mm-hmm. But this was kind of a pivotal episode of seeing them both have to draw a line in the sand. Yes. So it's a moment. They had a moment.
Let me ask you this. So he told McKenna, if you guys don't get me bail, I'm going to tell everything. I'm going to tell about your mother. I'm going to tell about the robbery, that you were the driver. I'm going to spill all of the tea. Do you, as on the viewer for this episode, do you really think that he would tell?
I think you never know what's going to happen. And, it's hard to, like, I could somewhat put the viewer cap on, but I'm just going to say, as a writer, you never know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you say I'm going to tell everything, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I think that's a great thing about television, and this show in particular, is that there's always something else. There's always a twist. There's always something else to discover. Yeah. And so you never know how far it goes, you know? And we really do try and, drop the moments one at a time so that I think the great thing about it's just very much like a roller coaster, like a thrill ride, any other thrill ride that you're on, is that you get to enjoy each moment of that thrill ride. Yeah. So we've seen pieces of the story. Even when you think you know the whole story, there's more to sort of find out. And so I think that threat of I'm going to tell it all is even bigger than you realize, you know?
Absolutely, because, I mean, up until this point, when it came to McKenna and Dante, things were pretty steady, you know? Yeah. I think we kind of had a grasp on their relationship and probably where we thought it was going. So this was one of the refreshing moments for this episode in particular for me, is that no, things took an immediate turn. And like you said, now they've had to draw the line for each other. Now it's not about protecting Dante. Yeah. Now they have to protect themselves.
And tense, right? Tense. Because, we've seen that they're ex-flames and they have a little tension. Is it romantic? Is it dangerous? What is it? Is it, Old Bay is coming out of the woodworks? Yeah. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? But, at this point, we kind of see them, their priorities are coming out. They may have had the old flame situation, but the moment she put him in handcuffs, things had to get real. Yeah. So,
and like Dante said, he's like, I'm not the 16-year-old guy that, that I think that you're viewing me as. Like, I'm not that person. Yeah. So I think that was a reminder not only to McKenna but to us that this is not the person that you've kind of been protecting this whole time. That both of you are different.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that you have to remember that several years have passed between when they've been together, and also Dante is a person who's been to prison. Yeah. You know what I mean? Is that of course he just as he said, when she looks at him, you almost see the person that you once knew. You can see no matter how much time has passed, no matter how far you've been from each other, you look at him and you see, your ex-boo, your old boyfriend. Yeah. But that's not who he is. And she doesn't know what he had to experience when he, since he got inside or when he got out. Yeah. So, it's a good reminder.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure she thought he would never change, but that's not the case, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. But us here at AfterBuzz, we're not going to switch up on you. We're always going to show you love, and we hope that you guys always show us love. And you can show us love by helping us continue to be the ESPN talk of TV. And by doing that, you can subscribe to all of our YouTube channels. And if you are in the car and driving, of course you can't watch us on YouTube, we are on iTunes. So that means subscribe, give us 5 stars on iTunes. And if you leave a nice comment, we might even give you a special shout out on our episode. So make sure that you guys go like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Give us 5 stars. And thank you again for making us the ESPN of TV Talk. All right, so let's get into episode 9, which is Dangerous Minds. How did this episode make you feel? I was frustrated. I was angry. I was... a lot of different emotions in this episode.
I think what I like about this episode is that you get a little bit of a different flavor. I think I'm always a fan of a good heist, of a good party scene, of a good Ocean's 11 type of moment. So I think we start to get into that territory. You know what I mean? So that's what I kind of appreciated about this moment.
Yeah. So in episode 9, we finally get to see the true story of what happened with McKenna and Nico's mom and that situation. Last week, I kind of had my thoughts. I thought McKenna actually was the one that shot her mom, but it was revealed to us in this episode that Nico was actually the one that picked up the gun and ultimately killed their mother, which was another kind of a refreshing thing for me. The person that she's been trying to protect this whole time actually ended up protecting her. And it's a shift in kind of like the big sister, little brother dynamic. I guess I'll get into this when we get into predictions. And how I think Nico is kind of viewing his sister. I think that he's maybe stepping into the role of trying to protecting and handling some things himself. And I think that it may not be going his way. Again, I'll get into this when we talk about predictions. What did you think about that whole?
I really like that reveal, and I'll tell you why. It's kind of to my earlier point about one layer at a time, because I think we kind of tell what we need to know in that moment, and I think if you're only focused on who did it, you kind of lose sight of certain things.
Yeah.
You know, I think previously it was important to kind of have a moment when we think about what's on the line for McKenna. You know, how does she feel about this man who's come back into her life? How does she feel about her family situation? You know, so we had an earlier episode where we saw young McKenna, you know, going into her teenage home and dealing with her little brother. And so we kind of needed to be able to focus on that and just see it on its own for a moment and kind of understand that the family dynamics that were happening there. And then, of course, there was a later episode where we saw a glimpse of this scene, but didn't exactly know who did it, because what we really needed to know at the moment was to see that relationship between McKenna and Dante and see McKenna in jeopardy and kind of see what was on the line for them at that moment. But I think here, of course, we get the reveal of who did it and what happened and that sort of thing. So it kind of allows us a chance to kind of live in each of those moments and kind of see where they are emotionally.
I think with this situation in particular, with this being revealed, I think what I took away from it is that McKenna literally has been playing the protector her entire life. So in my eyes, I'm kind of thinking like taking the past and taking where they are now. McKenna has always been so worried about everyone else. I don't even know if she's taken the time to protect herself, to deal with her old emotions and things that have happened in her past. She's always been in protection mode. I don't even know if she really takes care of herself. So much.
Well, you know, it's interesting because when you think about the things that McKenna gave up in terms of an old life or in terms of a past, she mortgaged all of those things to get new things. You know, to have the new life, to get the things that she thought would be fulfilling, you know, which is this new family and this new career. And you have to think about, I mean, even what it means to be a detective and a cop and that sort of thing is that honor and loyalty and that status and that reputation that she so desperately wanted, you know, and she has that now. And so she's able to kind of get that, but it comes at a cost, you know?
Yeah, definitely. We also see in this episode, which was a very entertaining scene in particular for me, Sid, Duval, and McKenna, they go to this party. It's Duval's party. You know, all the top drug dealers are there. They're having a good time, dancing, smoking, drinking, all that good stuff. And Sid is actually recognized by one of her old partners when she was undercover. First of all, their outfits. I love the line of when Ben said, "You guys look like," I think he said, "You guys look like glittery Power Rangers," or something like that. Like, I love like the subtle pieces of comedy that this show throws in there. It's hilarious. And then of course the women versus the men thing, that never gets old. I love it.
Yeah, bad boys, man.
Yes. But they're in the party. They're all there, undercover, trying to keep an eye out, of course, to do the drug bust. And lo and behold, things do not go as the team plans. There's no drugs. There's no drugs there.
Surprise.
Sid, actually, this is the perfect opportunity for her to get back in the game undercover. I'm scared. I'm very worried. Specifically because we have someone who's recognized her from the past. I think if she was able to go in there and create a new identity or just pick up some information, but now she's back, if not, you know, I feel like she's in more deep in than she was in the past.
Which is always the case. You know, there's always going to be a risk There's always going to be a risk. You know, Sid is somebody who came from the DEA.
Yeah.
She's worked undercover before. So, I mean, on the other hand, she's, you know, kind of been dealing and training and preparing for this her whole life, these situations. I'm sure, you know, in her past that we imagine, she might have been in sticky situations like this before. So I'm sure she has the skills to kind of find her way out of it, or maybe not, you know, because on the other hand, like, these are some of the baddest dudes, you know, in the world who are kind of at this party and in this environment and who she's exposed to now. But that's the thing. I mean, if you're somebody who's undercover, you never know when you're going to get made, when you're going to get exposed. So, yeah, it is a scary situation, but it should be, or it wouldn't be exciting.
Exactly. No, I definitely think that she can handle it without a doubt, but I don't know if I necessarily think that McKenna is 100% ready for what she's about to get into. I can't remember exactly if she's ever gone undercover before, but to get thrown into an ongoing situation, I'm like, I don't know if McKenna is 100% ready.
Well, you know what I love about them as a pair is that you have this interesting thing where Sid her personality is very sort of real, what you see is what you get, and very she'll say whatever's on her mind, even when it's inappropriate. But in her career, she had this experience as somebody who had been undercover, who had an assumed name and that sort of thing. You know, Nancy McKenna has this career where she is a cop, she's a straight shooter, she, you know, she's what you see is what you get in her career, but in her personal life she's been living this complete double life. You know, who we thought she was is not who she really is. And so it's kind of like McKenna is undercover in her personal life versus Sid, who's used to being undercover professionally. And so that may be a skill that they can use. But I think in the meantime, it's really interesting to see these two women who are kind of polar opposites of each other have to pull each other through that. So they're going to need each other, you know?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, from the past episodes, last few episodes in particular, we definitely see their relationship has grown stronger. They're definitely starting to trust each other now, open up with each other about personal things and things for work, which I think is going to make them stronger, is definitely what needs to happen, especially at this point where things are really getting real. They have to be able to trust each other.
And it's the right time, right? Because on day one of their relationship, there's no way that they could pull something like this off. There's no way that they could kind of escape safely and get the information that they need to get and move forward in their investigations, just because, you know, we've seen them grow.
Well, I think this Duval cat, I think he's going to be a little bit more dangerous than I was anticipating. He just does not seem all the way there. He's a little bit off his rocker. He's one minute he feels this way, 1 minute he feels that way. So I think this is going to be very interesting. We did learn that, like I said, the drugs were not there when the party got busted up. And Carlene was actually behind that. She's working her way back in, trying to get his trust again. And she actually made him feel better, saved him because it would have been bad. Then we also see Sid and Warren. I love their relationship. They're so cute together. Of course, he's attractive. And we finally see a very, very vulnerable moment with Sid, which I've been waiting for. And it's her revealing to Warren that, you know, this isn't just about what he did to me. This is about what Knox took from me. And she finally reveals to him that she was pregnant. I was kind of trying to read his reaction. His reaction, I felt like, I'm trying to figure out if he knew that there was a baby, because he didn't really seem too shocked.
Yeah, it's another one of those cop things. You know, they can kind of wear a game face when they need to. And of course, Warren is played by the amazing Laz Alonso, who is giving us everything in this episode. And so I kind of like the mystery of it. You know what I mean?
It's
because I think we kind of assume when a baby is lost that it's going to be this cliche thing where everybody's weeping and wailing and, you know, cards on the table. But that's not what we get here, because we have to remember who these people are every day and like a game that they're used to playing. So yeah, it's something where it's a little bit open to interpretation. But I think the biggest thing to read is that he's not in a situation where he can always give that up, you know, give up what he's feeling and where he's going with it. So yeah, and we get to see a little bit more from Warren in this episode. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of food for thought in terms of who he has to be in this situation, despite this very serious and horrible thing that happened. He, even in this moment, he can't give everything up.
And I mean, I guess we're seeing why, because Warren may not be the person that we thought.
Nobody ever is.
But why him? But I love that it's him, though.
Yeah.
It has to be him. The one person that she loves and trusts, the one person that she's finally letting back into her life.
Yeah.
He has some secrets of his own with Miss Carlene.
It wouldn't be fun if there were no secrets.
True.
Secrets, you know, secrets keep it spicy.
Yes, and it's just like, I don't know. I just felt like.
Were you wishing and hoping? Were you expecting a reconciliation?
I was, you know,
I was off into the sunset.
Yes,
hand
I was
in
like,
hand and arm in arm.
Yes, I was like, this finally someone who's gonna have Sid settle down. Give her some peace in her life because she's had turmoil with her partner, with her dad. She just learned that she has a sister. Now she can finally have some feel good in her life. And it's not him.
Well, you know.
But again, that's what I love. I love that it's the unpredictable parts that make it good.
Yeah, and I think if there's anything that we get to see from all of this is that, you know, nobody is 100% of anything.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, I think that these 2 episodes definitely gave me what I want. They gave me a lot of information and tied up a lot of loose ends, but then also opened up a lot of ends that I didn't even know existed. Which I think is the interesting and fun part about being a writer. So let us know, how long have you been a writer?
I've been a writer all my life. I mean, I was, you know, I was an arts kid and that sort of thing. You know, I'd come from the feature film world. I started out in independent film. Prior to LA's Finest, I had been in development for a couple of years on a feature at a studio. And so it was really great to kind of step into this world of, you know, television. Of course, as storytellers in any form, in any setting, it's always exciting to be able to knit these stories together and, you know, and create these characters. So it was great to be able to work on this show and just use that muscle and be in this different world. Because I think, you know, television, whether in feature films, whether you're at the independent level or at the studio feature level, it's a bit different in how it gets made. Television is so much more of a machine in terms of all of the folks and all of the voices that are involved, and just the size and scale of it and how it moves is a bit different. So it's really exciting to kind of be in this environment. Yeah,
and I know earlier we talked about the diversity that this show has, not only with the actors that we see on screen, but a lot of the cast and crew. So how does it feel to finally be on a set and a part of a project where there's so many different faces, colors, ethnicities?
It's dope. I think, you know, one of the first days, Gabriele Union and Jessica Alba are both executive producers on this project, as well as starring in it. And one of the first days that she came in, into the writer's room, and we had a conversation. She was like, you know, I've never seen this many black women in a writer's room.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at even the writers, just the writers on the show, black folks, women, Latinx folks, Asian folks represented, people of all ages, backgrounds, and that sort of thing, which is very hard to do in Hollywood. I think there are a lot of people who play lip service to diversity, and it's kind of a buzzy thing right now. But when you look at who is actually doing it and how do you do it, not everyone is kind of putting that effort in, but you definitely see it when it comes to a diverse set of folks from top down who are putting the show together. It was really important to them. It was a priority for them. It was a priority for the showrunners. So you see that reflected in the writing staff, and you certainly see it reflected in the crew when you're walking around. Anybody who follows folks on social media has gotten some of those photos.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where you're able to see the value in it come out in the storytelling as well.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't just kind of do it to do it. Is that what we have to realize is there's benefits to this. There's benefits to different folks, you know, contributing to the story. You can get some meatier aspects, some aspects that are a little more real in the storytelling, even though it's a Bad Boys universe and it's crazy and action and soapy drama. You're still able to get some of those moments that really resonate with people, which is nice.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was amazing. It was amazing to be a part of. You know, it's something that you always want to continue on any project that you're on.
No, I definitely agree. I feel like that's what brings the characters to life and makes the characters feel more real and relatable when it is authentic.
Yeah.
And it's coming from a place of authenticity. Like, for example, like Gabriele, you know, of course, like she's great. She brings any character to life. But again, just like the way that things are written, the timing, how things are, you know, said, that all starts with you guys.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you know, we do what we can. And of course, it's, you know, it's based on a very successful franchise. But I think what you're able to see with this show in particular is you can take that world, you can take the Bad Boys universe and make it LA's finest and see, you know, two women of color doing things in this universe that is not typically penetrated by women of color.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's been interesting to see the response of folks who just aren't used to it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's going to take some getting used to because you know, there's a lot of there's the action and there's the silliness of it and there's the back and forth and the jokes being cracked and there's the crazy action, the stuff that would never happen in everyday real life. And I think sometimes women want to see that too.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't get it everywhere. You can't get it most places on television. And this is the only show and the first of its kind.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you bring folks like that to put them in the creator role, you're able to get more of that. You're able to expand sort of the boundaries of what we normally see on television.
It brings, I think, a sense of humanity to different characters. Because, for example, like, you know, certain movies, I won't name any, when you see women of colors, there's a stereotype or a type of role. And the thing that I love about LA's Finest is you have two people of color who are just people and are just women living a life, telling a story.
Yeah.
That's real.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
and having fun. Because sometimes, you know, you've had a hard day, you've had a long day, and you just want to come, you want to turn off, and you want to see somebody get shot or get beat up.
Right.
Or, you know, say what's on their mind, which is not, you know, okay to say.
Or
and you get Sid Burnett.
Sid have her
you
moments.
Know, just marching through the world, you know, setting fires, lighting stuff on fire, stealing fentanyl,
and
you know.
She's dating everybody, having fun, being single.
Sid doing Sid.
Yes.
That's what we need sometimes.
We need that.
Yeah.
I applaud that. So what advice would you give to someone out there who's saying, I want to be a writer? Do you feel like that's something that can start at home? Do they need to be in a big city like New York or LA? How do they get that start?
You know what's wild? I think it's always interesting, like the whole advice thing, trying to give people advice. Anytime you make it anywhere in the entertainment business or anywhere in life, people are always asking you for advice. Anytime you're aspiring, people are always trying to give you advice. I'm a proponent of people kind of walking their own path. And I'm also sort of old school. I'm a film school brat. All my degrees are in this screenwriting and production thing. I haven't done anything else. I'm not somebody who was like an accountant or a lawyer or something else before this. This is kind of where I live. But that was my path. And so I wouldn't necessarily advise that to anyone else. I would say, you know, first and foremost, study your craft, obviously. But what that looks like for you and for anyone is going to be different, right? Is that there are some folks who go to film school. There are some people who just have a ton of life experience, especially in television. A lot of the stories that you're telling in the writer's room that become pitches, that become story, that become episodes are things that you're pulling from your own personal experience or from articles that you've read or from other television that you've watched that just inspired you and sparked something else. And so I think it's really important to obviously, one, study your craft, know story, structure, tone, character, all that good stuff, but know yourself. You know what I mean? And know what is your personal story and your perspective in the world and what makes you different and your voice, you know, stand out. Why is it that you're the person to tell this particular story that you've chosen to tell, and why nobody else can tell it but you? And I think everybody has that. You know what I mean? And I think the big sort of fallacy of this industry is that, you know, it has to be a certain way. You have to work your way up in a certain way or come up a certain path, or else your path is not valid. And I just don't think that's true. There's more television being made than ever before. There's room for absolutely anybody. So yeah, get in there.
Yeah, I always just say, just do it.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody's permission.
Yep.
Or anyone's cosign.
Yeah.
Just do it.
When you
like
move,
you said,
Providence moves too.
Yes, just learn your craft and you will find your way.
For sure.
If you really want it, you will find your way.
Absolutely.
So I love that. All right, so let's get into a little bit of you were the writer for episode 5.
Yep.
What were some of your favorite moments from
You
your
know, it was
episode?
dope. It was dope. I wrote 2 episodes of this season, episode 5 and episode 12 that's coming up towards the end of the season. Some exciting stuff coming along.
I can't wait.
But yeah, there was a lot to like about 5, a lot of fun that we got to have. I love the Baines BQ. I love seeing everybody take a moment to just, you know, get out there and Sid playing dominoes and slapping it down on the table and beating all the big, you know, fellas. I think we saw a really amazing moment with Izzy and just sort of her vulnerability. I mean, it's been simmering, you know, for a lot of episodes, but we finally sort of see it break in this episode and her kind of come out with it. I think that was just an amazing scene, and I think even looking at that scene of just her and Nancy like riding up to that spot in the middle of the road where she lost her mother was so powerful. And it also reminds me of just how collaborative television is. I remember us talking about that scene in the writer's room, and then of course when the director, he tells this story about when he was on the plane and he was reading the script and tears came to his eyes and he had this vision for how he was going to shoot it, and it came out amazing. And then of course when Jessica Alba came to the scene, she had her own ideas about how they were going to do it and that sort of thing. And so you see layer by layer of every person on a television show who contributes to what the final thing is going to be. I feel like that scene is just such an amazing example of that.
It's one of my favorite scenes this season.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think it takes a lot of really creative minds and a really talented, amazingly talented people to kind of bring it out. And also something to navigate, I think, tone-wise, right? Because there's also a brutal murder that happens in the middle of the episode. But I think it was important for us to tell that story, right? Because we had a trans murder victim who's the center of the episode, not giving anything away for those who haven't seen it yet. But it's something where it's that particular case, it gives you an opportunity to sort of go into the life of the victim and sort of see what their everyday and what their experience was. It's a window into, you know, when you're a cop and you're doing an investigation, you kind of get a window into what that person's everyday experience was leading up to the crime. And so it allows us to see that. But there are also some very deep parallels with Nancy McKenna's life and the past that she left behind and the way that the layers of her identity were sort of stripped away in a similar way to the way that the victim sort of changed their physical attributes. So there was a lot to kind of grapple with in the episode and a lot to navigate tonally. But I think it's also interesting too because you have you know, brutal murder, deep drama, some action-y elements. We have a shootout. We have a live octopus. We have somebody get killed. We have a big, fun barbecue with an amazing invitation to the barbecue featuring Dwayne Martin's face that I designed, which was very cute. But here's the thing. I think it's a lot, right? And there are highs and lows, and it takes you everywhere. But I think, one, that's the fun of LA's finest that you get in the show. But I think it also reminds you of the reality of cops sometimes, too, which which I think a lot of folks forget, and it's funny because one of our writers is a veteran, over 20-year veteran with the NYPD. We also had some detectives who were consultants on the show as well. Cool. So when you go the cop work, it does check out. You know what I mean? It's all sound. Of course, there are going to be some liberties that you take as a writer. It is TV, so there are going to be some things that you push and stretch and make more fun. Yeah. But generally, the cop work is sound, and I think one of the things that came out in this episode is the fact that cops, they build this veneer of just toughness because they're seeing the most horrendous things every day. They're putting their lives in danger every day, and they're seeing some of the most brutal crimes. These are robbery homicide detectives as well. Right. So they're not just any detectives or any cops on the beat. Yeah. They're dealing with some of the most brutal stuff, and they develop this veneer, and they also develop this ability to not let it faze them and not let it penetrate. So they can be standing over a dead body telling jokes and that sort of thing, and it's something that happens in real life, and it's not something that happens out of disrespect, but it's something that happens out of resilience that they have to be able to do the job. So it is a real thing to see them go from interviewing a victim who is crying on the edge of tears and can't hold it together, or seeing a dead body, to going to a barbecue and having a fun time because they have to. You have to put your emotions aside. Yeah, so it's something that we're able to do with the show, and it was, something that's good to do, and I think a cool reminder to kind of, we're doing it, of course, in the LA's finest crazy way, right? But it's something that, of course, is rooted in reality.
Yeah, definitely. And I must say, one of my favorite moments from the barbecue was when Dwayne Martin was like, listen, we black people, we don't do this. We don't slam bottles and stuff. Those are the moments that I love. They are hilarious and they're true. And again, because we have different ethnicities, different people on the show, those are the moments where you kind of get an insight into different
we were talking about life. The moment when Izzy and
threw the bottle.
Izzy McKenna and Justice Baines, they sneak away in the middle of the barbecue and they're doing some things they don't have any business doing, and we see, of course, we see Patrick and Ben Baines catch them and pull each of their kids aside for a conversation. But I think that was something that rang true to me as a writer. Just culturally, of course, there's a difference, but there's also a difference between a regular detective and somebody who is in the DA's office and has all of these powers. Bane's son can't do what the McKennas do. There's level we could call out the privilege, but there is a level of privilege that does exist. Exactly. With just Patrick being in that position, there are things that Izzy can do that every old kid cannot do, and so Baines has to pull his son aside and say, listen, it's color, it's class, it's it's job, it's function, and kind of talk some sense into his son. So that was an interesting moment to kind of see. A little bit of juice in there, a little bit of drama in there.
It's truth. All right, so I appreciate you for coming and hanging out with me today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
My lonesome. Yeah. But before we close out the show, we do have a couple more things that we want to touch on. I think first, let's get into our top comment fan. We have Mr. Moni2K6. They left a really nice message. So they said, I also thought Carlene was Knox when she was first introduced. I'm thinking that Nancy killed her mom, but maybe it was actually her brother who found the gun in the bag. I can't wait to see what happens next week. Even though the show shows a lot of Sid's life, I feel like Nancy's life is just as complex, and she holds some deep secrets in her past. I actually don't trust Sid's old boyfriend. I feel he's a dirty cop who probably works for Knox. Well, I think you hit some things right on the head, Mr. Money2K6. I like that. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. But before we get into our predictions, let's give our top 3 Gabriele moments of the show thus far. Would you like to go first, or should I go first?
I mean, there are so many great Sid Burnett moments. So many. I think LA's Funnest just it's been a chance to do some amazing meaty things with a character that was, supporting in Bad Boys 2.
Yeah.
Did her thing in her little white power suit that everybody remembers from the film. But, there's so much more that you get out of her from this show. And even from the moment that we first see her in the show, she's something completely different, even at this point in the season. And there are all these other aspects to her character. So I think I definitely love the moment in the NICU. In episode 4 where she's holding the babies, because it shows us a different side. You know what I mean? It's not only giving us a little bit of her past, that actually revealing a little bit of what happened to her and what she went through and the trauma that she experienced. But it's also showing a little bit more of a tender side, and the fact that she can extend that to somebody like Walker, that when he's going through this trauma, she knows what he's been through, and she's able to help him, partner to partner, cop to cop. And so you kind of get a lot from within a very simple scene. So that was one of my favorite moments, written by the amazing Andrea Thornton Bolton. And then what else? I think also early in the season we see Sid go into a Catholic church. And it's another moment where we see a different side of Sid, because she's somebody who's been a lone wolf. She starts out by herself, of course. Throughout the course of the season, we're seeing her develop her team. She's rekindling her relationship with her father. She's building her relationship with her partner. She's got the Benz on her side. She's got Warren in her corner. But when she starts out, she's really a lone wolf. She doesn't necessarily have those folks or even know how to connect with the folks in her life. And so seeing her kind of do things in those quiet moments, in those off moments, where does she go for comfort? And we sort of see that when she visits the church. So I think that's interesting, and to know that she does know some scripture as well, that, when the priest comes to her and is spitting it out, she can run it right back to him. So I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, in my episode 5, I gotta say, I love seeing Sid play dominoes and, slam things down and take people's money, ripped from real life there when she's taking on those guys. And I think it's just such an expression of who she is as a character. We always talk about like character defining moments as writers. When you're telling somebody who a character was, what is an action that they would take. And I think seeing Sid at this barbecue, beautiful skyline overlooking in the middle of the day, sitting at this table full of big burly dudes and taking them all on and taking every last one of their money. It's such a defining moment of who Sid is. It tells you everything you need to know about her.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I love the dominoes scene with Sid. It reminds me of home. It reminds me of some moments I've had on the table myself.
And she feels like a real person. Even again in a crazy universe where you have really bad guys walking around, you have cops doing things that cops aren't supposed to do. Every now and then you get a moment where they really feel like real people.
Another one of my favorite moments, anything with Sid and Arlo. Like, I love their back and forth. I love their banter. And then I would say my number 3 favorite moment was actually a small moment in episode, I believe it was 9, where Sid goes and asks her dad for permission to keep going after Knox. I love that moment because I love seeing them finally connect. She's showing him some trust, some tender moment between those two. So I really, really like that. Really quickly, before we get out of time, let's go into some predictions.
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right, what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, here's the thing.
Is that a fair question to ask you?
It's really not, because clearly I've been writing on the show and I know what's going to happen next. But I will say it's always fun to see like what other people sort of think. As a viewer, kind of made the comment of who they think Knox is and who they think is dirty. I think again, one of the things that I love about the show is that it makes a point that no one is 100% one thing. You know what I mean? And I think that makes a case for, we were talking about Warren and riding off into the sunset with him, but now he's dirty, so it's all falls apart. But I think, stories are not final in that way. You know what I mean? Nobody is one thing. Nobody is 100% good or bad, even in our daily lives. I mean, we just see it here in a much more dramatic way. So there are going to be some people who you trust, who have done terrible things. You know what I mean? Can they be redeemed? Can he come back? We're gonna see, you know. I think all of the suspicions of who is the big bad guy and what's gonna go down at the end. I think one thing that I will say for certain is that whatever you believe is going to happen, there can always be a twist.
That's no fair, but I live it though. No, I definitely feel like we're gonna learn more about Warren. I don't even know if he's gonna make it out of the season alive. I'm just gonna leave it at that. All right.
See.
We will see what happens. Thank you so much for joining us here at
thank you so
AfterBuzz
much.
TV.
And I will say, for those who are interested in that sort of thing and in following the show and where it's going to go and all of their predictions and want to weigh in, they should also follow the show on social media. LA's Finest TV, at LA's Finest TV. You can see what's going on. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Instagram stuff. People who haven't checked out the show yet can go to Spectrum Originals and see it there.
Yes.
If anybody is interested in finding out what I am up to, I'm very easy to find.
Yes.
Everywhere on the internet. I have a very unique name, which is easy to spell and easy to Google. I'm Jai Tiggett. And I'm at Jai Tiggett on everything.
Oh, awesome. And you guys know where to find me, your host, Ashley Allen. And make sure you go follow Portia Carter.
Yes.
She's on all social media as well. And until next time, make sure you keep it locked right here on AfterBuzz TV. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.